Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. I am your host, Master X101, and I am bringing to you today another fantastic episode of Deserter by Junji Ito. And today's manga of choice will be Face Thief. It's an interesting book. I like it. And after that one, we got one more in this one before I bring out my favorite of his collections. And I do the first one of it. Just the first one, because there's only 4 of them in that book. So if you want to know, this one is quite larger. Thick lads here. That's all we got. Whereas, Fragments of Horror, you've seen it, it's rather thin, but it has a lot of stories. It has 8 in total. The other one is the same size, but it has only 4 stories. You know what that means? More fleshed out details. It's one of my favorite of Junji Ito's works. And he actually says it in the end of it, that the reason why this one took a bit longer is because he actually got to fill out the full story. Whereas in most of his stories, due to how publications work, is they want as many different stories as quickly as possible, whereas that actually went straight to online, so he could actually flesh it out as much as he could. So that's why that one, which we will get to, right back there, yes, right over there, somewhere over there, beside the green one, and on the other side of Fragments of Horror. Probably can't read it from this distance, because I'm the one providing you entertainment, hopefully. But enough of that. You're here for the review plus hopefully the summary. For starters, spoiler warning, as always. I will be reviewing after I get done with the summary, so if you want to skip ahead, you can skip ahead. Now, as for the rest of the video, we get into the summary. The story is actually a new one for us. Like the old trope of a transfer student transfers into a new school and all that, and all weird shenanigans happen. This is our first one of those. Finally, we get a transfer student story. And this one opens up with our delinquent transfer student, Machida. Another female main character. As I mentioned in the last video, most of the main characters are female. And with this, she gets assigned to the front row, and she makes the comment of sitting me in the front row so you can keep an eye on me, which the teacher ignores because she is immediately overshadowed by another student named Kami, who is very enthralled with the idea of sitting next to Machida, which Machida's like, whatever, I guess. And the teacher finally relents and lets Kami sit at the front next to Machida. Which, another thing is, Kami was originally sitting next to a girl that looked exactly like Kami, which will be important later on, which we haven't got there. So that's why it's later on. Throughout the day, Kami follows Machida around like a lost dog all day, to which Machida finally confronts her about it. It's just like, hey, stop following me around. That's weird, and I don't like people like you. To which Kami says, I think you're really pretty, and that's why I follow you around. To which Machida just gets madder and tries to storm off, but with Kami following her. Later that day, Machida walks outside and has Kami follow her, which Kami does because she wants to be around Machida. Machida eventually jumps Kami and beats her up. To which Machida is stopped by a male classmate named Hibino. He sounds more Spanish than Japanese, so he might also be another transfer student, but the spelling of it is split in 3s, whereas it is kind of like it's split in syllables of 2 letters, so it could also just be that his name just conveniently sounds somewhat Hispanic. But I'm white, so I don't know. Moving onward, he tells Kami to stop and leave Machida alone after he tells Machida not to mess with Kami, because Machida does not know what Kami is capable of. Kami runs off and hides in the distance, in which Habino finally explains to Machida why Kami has been following Machida around. And that is to be determined later on. He says that she's trying to take her. And so Machida's like, what, you mean like kidnap me? He explains it, but we don't get to see that. We just see Machida laughing about it because that's not real. To which Machida starts to head back home when she passes by Kami, who is hiding behind a light pole. To which she looks at Kami, and half of Kami's face looks just like Machida, when the other side looks like the rest. So, leading on this point, Machida now knows that what Habino told her was 100% correct, that her thing is she likes to steal the faces of other people because she thinks they're pretty, which I guess that is an understandable point, but at the same time, it's a strange ability to have for a normal person. Moving onward, we get to a point of no return, which Kami and Machida go on a little bus ride to a field where Machida's old classmates from her old school meet up with Machida and the half Machida, half Kami person, to which by the time that they get to meet Machida's old friends, Kami looks the exact same as Machida and with some of the same personality quirks, because Machida is about to introduce Kami to her old friends to, hey, this person's weird, we need to get her. To which Kami is the one that does that, but against Machida. To which Machida gets beat up by her old friends and Kami. Oh, how the turns have tabled. Excuse me on that. The turns have definitely tabled, alright, because as they're walking back home, they get met by Habino, the man, the myth, the legend. And he immediately goes, Machida, are you alright? To the one who is being carried back by Kami. And he immediately says that, hey, Kami, you need to stop doing this. This is wrong. Kami says, more or less confesses that she does like Habino, which Habino says, I do not love any stolen beauty. To which Kami says, the only way for me to look like my original face is to stay out of contact of people for a long time, and that it only takes a day of being out in public for her to start to conform into other people's looks, which is quite interesting. So that would mean that she would have to lock herself away to not look like anyone. And she chooses to be around females because she likes Habino. Either way, Kami leaves. Habino comforts Machida because she got beat up by 3 people. Yeah, just slobber knocker right there. And after that, they all head back to their homes, except for Machida. She actually goes to the principal and has devised a plan, learning how, quick Kami's transformation works. That next morning, Kami comes to school a bit late because she is, running late, and she's mentioning that conveniently the transformation has worked rather quickly here lately, but it is very unstable just after full transformation, to which she needs to be next to Machida to complete the transformation. And the fact that she just beat her up yesterday would probably mean that Machida will not resist at all, except for as soon as she opens the classroom door, everyone has on some kind of creepy looking mask. Anything from your ogres to your yokai to just strange old women mask. Or even this one guy who's got like, what's it called? It's the Japanese equivalent of the Power Rangers. I'll put up an image of what they look like right there. And so it's kind of like everyone has a mask on. So she immediately bolts out of that classroom because her face thing changes in time with being around people. And apparently right now it is very fragile, her image of Machida, to which she runs to the next few classes. Everyone in the school is wearing a mask, to which she immediately gets the idea, I gotta get out of here. She runs outside to where everyone outside is also wearing a mask, and the track and field team actually run up to her and surround her to where she can't get out, to which her face and her body start amalgamating into this strange creature that is a mix of every mask around her, to which Hibino, feeling sorry for her, runs out. But as he gets to the door, he sees what has happened to her and is immediately not as helpful as before, because you also learn, I've kind of skipped ahead on this one, but she is not actually a student there. She's just been there. Like, just showed up one day and they couldn't get rid of her. So she is older than any of the students, and probably most of the faculty as well. So she's an ancient being that her whole thing is she takes the appearance of people she hangs around. Which is really strange, alright. And in future reference, I probably should have done a bit of research, because that would have been really something interesting to add in at the end of this video, but I didn't, because it was quite late last night writing the script. So on the next video that I do, I will add a bit at the end after I give my review of the next story to like, hey, I did this bit of research and I'm sorry that I missed the last one on it. Now looking back on it, I probably should have, but negligence on my part, but I will correct it in the next episode. So that would actually be the summary of The Face Thief. It isn't long at all. In fact, I feel like that this one has been a fun one to read, but at the same time it is a bit scattered in some of its aspects of it, to which I give it a 5.5, which I believe was the same score that I gave the one right after Futon. I guess you can kind of see a pattern. The first few stories of a Junji Ito book are usually not as good as the last few. Which in this one, as I said, the last one is my favorite, which shares the name with the book. The story Deserter in the book Deserter. Quite an interesting, it's like he did that on purpose. I'm surprised there's not a story called Fragments of Horror in the book Fragments of Horror. And I'm pretty sure also the next book that I do is going to be actually quite fun. And I actually have a bit of stuff that I want to do for that one, because it holds a special place to me, because it is definitely one of my favorite collections. But enough of that. I'm glad you were all here. Thank you for watching. You can like and subscribe if you wish. I'm not gonna beg for it. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you for the next one. And goodbye.